Welcome to NIMS Credentialing 101, a video tutorial to prepare your training staff to start testing with NIMS. As you probably know by now, anyone who wants to earn a NIMS credential will need to register, complete a performance project, and take an online theory test to become certified. The process is the same regardless of who you are: teachers, trainers, students, employees, apprentices, military personnel. Whoever you are, you will follow these steps and in this order. Performance always goes before online testing. Before we start, let's lay out some expectations. The purpose of this video is to bring you up to speed on what NIMS testing procedures entail and who is involved. That means learning how to enroll your company or school, how to select and register those who will oversee and facilitate the testing process, how to register your trainees or students, how to fulfill project requirements, and finally, how to take the online theory tests. So let's start with enrolling your organization with NIMS. Before completing the online registration, an organization contact person must be designated. This person will be the primary contact between your organization and NIMS, though we can always change to someone else later. A username and password will be issued to the organization contact person, and he or she will then be responsible for registering sponsors. Sponsors oversee the hands-on training, and we will get to them in a few minutes. Organization registration is free and only takes a couple of minutes. Now you may be thinking, how do I know if my company or school is already registered with NIMS? In that case, you can pause this video, then follow the instructions in the green box. Continue whenever you're ready. For those who do need to register, follow these next steps. Number 1, go to the NIMS website and click Organization Registration. On the organization registration form, you will complete all fields to reflect the contact info of the person that you have just designated as your organization contact person. A username and password will be established at this time, so do make a note of those. When complete, click Submit, and this will complete the organization registration process. Next, we are going to register sponsors. These are the employees at your company or school who will oversee the performance project that NIMS requires for 99% of its credentials. More often than not, sponsors are teachers or trainers, but anyone in a supervisory role can register as a sponsor. Once registered, sponsors will also have login credentials. Your organization may register as many sponsors as needed, and there is no cost to do so. If your organization contact person should also be a sponsor, please contact NIMS, and a staff member will be happy to take care of that for you. To register your sponsors, have your organization contact person go to the NIMS website and log in. After logging in and reaching the Welcome screen, click Add a Sponsor. If you want to check on who you have previously added as a sponsor, then you could also click Manage Sponsors to see a list of currently registered sponsors. On the sponsor registration form, you will complete all fields to reflect the contact info of the sponsor that you are enrolling with NIMS. A username and password will be established at this time, so do make a note of those. When complete, click Submit. You can repeat these steps if you wish to register multiple sponsors. This completes the sponsor registration process. Next stop, Proctors. Proctors are employees of your company or school who are designated to oversee individuals when they take a NIMS test online. That includes any time a trainer, instructor, or teacher tests as well. Proctors do not receive login credentials, so NIMS does not include a username and password on the registration form. We encourage you to register multiple proctors, and there is no fee to do so. Registering multiple proctors is a precautionary suggestion in case your primary proctor is unavailable on the day that you plan to test. Just two things to remember when you select your test proctor. Proctors need to register themselves. Another employee cannot register a proctor on his or her behalf. Number two, sponsors cannot serve as proctors. To register your proctors, go to the NIMS website and click Proctor Registration. On the proctor registration form, the proctor will personally complete all fields to reflect his or her contact info at your organization. In the proctor ID box, your proctor will type his or her first initial, last name, and the year, all as one word. This ID is solely used for internal purposes by NIMS staff, and so your proctor does not need to make a note of this. In the proctor code box, your proctor will type a password of his or her choosing. The NIMS Online Testing Center will request this code anytime someone sits for an online theory test, and this is how we know the proctor is present to ensure a fair testing environment. It is imperative that proctors keep their codes 100% confidential. If a proctor is unavailable on testing day, then another proctor must register. Sharing of proctor codes is grounds for revoking proctor privileges. When complete, click Submit. You can repeat these steps if you wish to register multiple proctors, but each must complete this form for him or herself. This now completes the proctor registration process. NIMS offers 52 different certificates that are based on the NIMS National Industry Standards, and all NIMS tests are industry-created and industry-approved. When it comes to choosing the credentials that are appropriate for your trainees or students, you can select from any of our 52 certificates. There is no order that NIMS credentials have to be earned in. Level 1 credentials are designed to meet entry-level job skills, while Level 2 aligns with journeyman skills and Level 3 aligns with master-level work. Sponsors do not need to earn certificates before their trainees or students, and training programs are not required to be accredited by NIMS. Because 99% of our credentials require a performance project, it is important to also know what that entails before you decide to include a particular NIMS test in your training plan. We will spend the next few minutes identifying the different kinds of performance projects and what each entails. There are two kinds of performance projects, prints and CARs, or Credentialing Achievement Records. For print projects, the individual pursuing certification will machine a part based on a blueprint that NIMS provides. When complete, the part will be inspected by 2 MET-TEC committee members. And don't worry, we will discuss MET-TECs in a few minutes. If that part passes inspection, then an affidavit form is sent to NIMS to alert NIMS staff that the project was successfully finished. At that time, NIMS staff will unlock the online theory test. For CAR projects, the individual pursuing certification will complete a series of skills checks. When those skills checks are successfully completed, then an affidavit form is sent to NIMS to alert staff that the project was successfully finished. At that time, NIMS staff will unlock the online theory test. Prints and cars are all available on the NIMS resources page, which does require a login to access. Now let's take a look at which certifications require prints and which use cars. Here are all of the NIMS Machining Level 1 certificates that focus on manual machining skills. Most require that an individual machine a single part and then have that part checked by 2 MET-TEC inspectors. The Job Planning Benchwork and Layout Credential requires that an individual produce 2 parts, both of which can be inspected by a sponsor. The Measurement Materials and Safety Credential does not require a performance project at all. This credential solely requires an online theory test. Next, let's look at the Machining Level 1 CNC certificates. As you see, half use prints and half use cars. The certificates that include machine programming and setup require that the individual machine a part, and then that part is to be checked by 2 MET-TEC inspectors. Meanwhile, the credentials that focus solely on machine operations will require a car instead. Now, if your program is interested in NIMS credentials that are outside of the machining realm, then 100% of those projects require completion of a car. If you plan to have your trainees or students pursuing credentials that require cars, then you can skip the next slide. But for everyone who plans to have trainees or students pursuing credentials that require prints, here's where we will introduce and explain MET-TEC inspectors and inspections. MET-TEC committees, also known as metalworking technical committees, consist of folks who inspect parts made by your trainees or students. This committee is a pool of industry professionals who have been employed in a metalworking field for at least 5 years. These industry reps can also be on your advisory board, and inspections can occur wherever proper measuring devices can be accessed, your shop or theirs, whatever works for you. Inspection sheets can be downloaded from the NIMS resources page. All parts need to be within 100% tolerance to be considered passing. Before inspections start, please complete the MET-TEC registration form, which you can download from the NIMS site. When complete, send that form to NIMS so that staff are aware of who is inspecting parts for your program. 2 inspectors are needed for every part, and both inspectors can work for the same company. Remember, MET-TEC committees are only necessary if you plan to have trainees and students pursuing credentials that require a print for the project. One final note, if you are at a company that has an ISO quality certification, then parts may be inspected in-house by your own quality staff. 2 inspections are still required per part. Now for the cost of it all. NIMS assesses 2 types of fees, a one-time registration fee of $40 and a fee for the online theory test. The cost of the test fee depends on which test is being taken. Level 1 tests are $35 each, while Level 2 and Level 3 tests are $50 each. Any instructors or trainers who wish to test will have test fees waived. This means instructors and trainers only pay the one-time $40 registration fee. If interested, instructors and trainers should contact NIMS staff to receive a code to waive their test fees. If you're at an accredited program, then a 20% discount will be applied to all test fees, reducing prices to $28 and $40. Next, we will explore payment options, starting with the most popular, prepaid account codes. Under this payment method, your staff will calculate its costs with NIMS for the foreseeable future. That means calculating the number of registrations and/or tests that will need to be purchased. Then, that total is sent to NIMS in the form of a check, a credit card payment, or a purchase order. Depending on the form of payment, different delivery is requested, and you can refer to this slide when ready to process payment. Regardless of how payment is made, once received, NIMS staff will put the funds onto an account code. That code can be used to provide payment when the NIMS Online Testing Center requests it. Here's an example. When payment is requested, a payment method page will open and the account code can be entered at the bottom below the credit card form. When a code is used, it automatically draws off of the original payment that your organization made to NIMS. Receipts are automatically sent by email when an account code is used for a payment, and NIMS staff can check code balances upon request. One note, funds do roll over. So if you send in funds for an account code, but not all of the money is used, then the leftover money will be saved for future use. There is no expiration on those funds, so they will be there whenever your program is ready to use them. An alternative to prepaying and using account codes is to simply enter credit card information at the point of purchase. So that would mean having a credit card and billing address ready whenever a registration or test fee is to be paid. Aside from that, it is just like purchasing on any other web store, and a receipt is automatically emailed afterwards. A third option is available for training programs that anticipate a high volume of trainees and students who plan to register and test with NIMS. In this scenario, a $5,000 payment would provide unlimited registration fees and test fees for 1 year. As a bonus, the payment will also cover the cost of having your program accredited by NIMS. Again, this is 100% optional and only encouraged for use at training programs that anticipate testing in high volumes. Break time. We have now registered all parties who oversee and facilitate the testing process, so this completes the Getting Started portion of the Credentialing 101 training video tutorial. The next half of the session will cover registering trainees and students, executing performance projects, and administering online theory tests. If you wish to pause this section or take 5, then this is a good time to take a break. Restart whenever you're ready, or if you're ready now, then let's keep moving. We will start with registering your trainees as candidates. Candidates are those who plan to take NIMS tests. Thus far, this video has referenced students, trainees, employees, and apprentices, but from here forward, they will all be called candidates. Candidate registration must be completed before an online test can be taken, and registration is completed online via the NIMS Testing Center. This includes paying the $40 registration fee either by account code or with a credit card. It is recommended that a candidate registration be submitted at least 48 hours before testing to ensure that NIMS staff has enough time to process everything. Registration can be done by the candidate himself or herself, or an employee of your organization may do so on their behalf. Lastly, NIMS staff can set candidate accounts as inactive after they leave your training program. This does not delete the account, as registration is good for a lifetime, but instead, this temporarily hides their account. So let's walk through the steps of registering a new candidate. Start by going to the NIMS website and then click Candidate Registration. On the candidate registration form, you will complete all fields to reflect the contact information of the candidate you are registering. If you do not have the candidate's home address, phone, or email, you may enter the address or phone number of your organization. You may also enter your own email address. A username and password will be established at this time, so do make a note of those. When complete, click Submit. This will open a payment screen where the $40 registration fee is to be paid. Enter your credit card information or type in an account code. Receipts are automatically delivered to the email address that was entered into the registration form, and once you have clicked Submit Payment, the confirmation screen that follows may be printed for use as a receipt if necessary. If a sponsor wants to view a list of candidates that have been registered, he can simply log in, and from the welcome screen, he will click View Candidates. That will produce a list that shows all candidates who have registered and selected that particular sponsor to oversee their progress. Furthermore, clicking the name of a candidate will open a profile or transcript to show that particular candidate's progress with NIMS. Once a candidate is in the system, he or she can start working on performance projects. As we mentioned earlier, Measurement, Materials, and Safety is the only NIMS credential that does not require a performance project at all. Once a candidate is registered, this online theory test is automatically available for a candidate to take if he or she chooses to. All other credentials require either a print or a CAR, which we reviewed earlier, but here are our charts again just as a reminder. Remember, projects that require prints mean that the candidate will machine a part based on a NIMS-issued print, and that part will need to be inspected. On the other hand, projects that require CARs mean that the candidate will complete a series of skills checks. For prints and CARs alike, an affidavit form will need to be sent to NIMS when the project is successfully completed. Prints, CARs, and forms can all be accessed by logging into the NIMS site and visiting the resources page. Just a quick review. Most machining level 1 projects require a print, with the exception of MMS, which has no project, and JPBL, which allows sponsors to inspect finished projects. Level 1 CNC projects require either a CAR or a print, depending on which your candidates are pursuing. All other credentials require CARs, and these can be downloaded via the NIMS resources page. Now let's delve a little deeper in terms of notifying NIMS that a candidate has passed a performance project. When a candidate successfully completes a print project and his or her part passes inspection, then a machining performance affidavit is completed and sent to NIMS. This informs NIMS staff to unlock that particular test for that particular candidate. These forms are per part, so only one part per form. And the affidavits must include signatures from both MET-TEC inspectors who have checked the part. When a candidate successfully completes a CAR, then the last page of the CAR booklet is an affidavit. Simply complete that page and send it to NIMS. When NIMS receives an affidavit of either type, it informs the staff to unlock the online theory test for that certificate. Online theory tests are not available until affidavits are received, with the exception of the NIMS Credential, which, as mentioned earlier, does not have a project at all. Now we are getting down to the final steps. Here are some tips for helping your candidates prepare for testing. First, the NIMS test is automatically ready, as was just mentioned. Second, there's no need to schedule a testing time with NIMS. Tests can be taken anytime as long as a proctor is present. Additionally, tests will remain unlocked and available until they are taken. So no matter when an affidavit is received, that test will remain available until the candidate is ready to take it. A limited number of study guides are available 24/7 via the resources page of the NIMS website, which requires login to access. If your candidate has forgotten his or her username or password, use the Forgot Username and Forgot Password buttons on the NIMS homepage to activate an automatic reminder. Here are just a few more tips. Sponsors and proctors should work together to set a time for candidates to take online tests, and proctors are always required during testing. Before testing, we encourage sponsors to verify that candidates know their usernames and passwords, that they know what test they are taking, and that they know what payment method to use. If your proctor is unavailable, then another proctor will need to be selected and registered before testing can occur. If your proctor has forgotten his or her proctor code, then he or she must personally call NIMS. Codes are only given by phone and only to the proctors themselves. Sponsor presence is not required during online testing. All tests have a 90-minute time limit, and an on-screen timer is present during tests to inform candidates of how much time remains. Test length does increase depending on level, so Level 1 tests are around 50 questions, Level 2 around 75, and Level 3 are around 100 questions per test. Any computer used for online testing should have Flash Player 8.0 or higher. Tests will not load properly without this software. It is encouraged that proctors or sponsors check computers prior to testing, and if necessary, download the free software online. The NIMS Online Testing Center will save progress if a candidate has to stop mid-test or in the event of a power failure or computer freeze-up. To continue a test, the candidate will simply log in and click Take Test. Proctor presence is again required. On testing day, the proctor will verify the identity of the candidates and ensure that the candidates have only the following approved items: scratch paper and a pencil or pen, a non-programmable calculator, scientific calculators are okay, and the machinery's handbook or the shop reference for students and apprentices. When ready, candidates will go to the NIMS Online Testing Center and log in with their usernames and passwords. Remember, the candidate logs in, not the proctor. Candidates can then update their contact info on the profile page or continue by clicking Skip. This is especially important if the candidate was registered by someone else. Next, from the Welcome page, have candidates click Purchase Test. Any unlocked purchase tests will be listed at the bottom of the screen and can be accessed by clicking Take Test. But to purchase a test, they will click Take Purchase Test. After clicking Purchase Test, a list of unlocked tests will appear. This list reflects the affidavits that have been received for this particular candidate. If the affidavit has not been received at NIMS, then the test will not be unlocked or available for purchase. If the correct test appears, then select that test and click Add to Cart. Next, enter a method of payment. Either a credit card or an account code will be used. Click Submit Payment when done. The next page is an order confirmation. This page may be printed as a receipt if necessary. Otherwise, the candidate will click Done. The following screen will contain a list of unlocked and purchased tests. The candidate will start by clicking Take Test next to the specific test that he or she wishes to take. Upon clicking that button, the test ID for that exam will appear in the Test ID box below. At this time, the proctor will personally step in and enter his or her proctor code. Proctors must do this step themselves. Proctor codes cannot be shared with sponsors or candidates. Next, click Start Test. From here, the test will present its own instructions and question 1 will appear. To advance to the next question, simply select an answer and then click Next. When all questions are complete, the candidate may click Submit for immediate grading, click Review to review answers before submitting for grading, or click Cancel to go back to the current question. Pass or fail results are posted immediately after answers are submitted for grading. For passing scores, NIMS staff is automatically alerted and an official credential is printed and mailed. For scores that did not pass, candidates may retake the test anytime. However, the test fee will be reassessed and a proctor will be needed for all retakes. A couple of notes about NIMS credentials. First, they don't expire. And second, temporary and replacement copies are available when needed. The candidate will simply log in and visit the My Credentials page where he or she can print temporary versions and order free replacements. Before we finish, let's tackle some frequently asked questions. Can students under the age of 18 pursue NIMS credentials? Yes, as long as they are enrolled at a state-approved program, such as a program at a high school, a career technical center, or a career center. Do sponsors need to earn credentials before their students or trainees? No. Students and trainees can start testing anytime. Instructor and trainer certifications are not required. However, they are encouraged. Can I start with a Level 2 or Level 3 credential? Yes. There's no order in which credentials should be earned, so you can start wherever you like. For the performance project, can candidates use my own print instead of the NIMS issued print? No. Prints used for NIMS projects are industry developed, piloted, and approved, and are based on NIMS national skills standards. So it's very important that your trainees and candidates use the NIMS issued prints. Is inspection by one MET-TEC committee person enough? No. We always need 2 inspections. If the first and second inspector do not agree on whether or not a part passes, then a 3rd inspector is brought in as a tiebreaker. Can I use one performance affidavit for multiple parts? No. We need 1 affidavit form per part. So if a student has completed 3 projects, all 3 parts have passed inspection, then NIMS will need 3 forms, 1 per part. Can a candidate take the online theory test before the performance project? No, performance always comes before the online theory test. Can a proctor share his or her proctor code with sponsors or candidates? No. If a proctor is unavailable on testing day, then another employee must be registered and fill in as proctor with their own proctor code. Can a candidate retake an online theory test on the same day if the first attempt is unsuccessful? Yes. NIMS does not enforce a mandatory waiting period, so retakes can be taken any time as long as a proctor is present. However, we do strongly encourage that the candidate take time for remediation before attempting a test for the 2nd or 3rd time. That completes the NIMS Credentialing 101 video tutorial. You are now ready to start registering and testing with NIMS. If you have questions still, then do not hesitate to contact NIMS. The NIMS team is always happy to assist wherever possible. Thank you and happy testing.